if you don't know where you are right now, don't feel bad. Because I don't know where you are either. In fact, I barely know where I am. Do you see what's in front of us? It's a very little known and very little publicized place. It's the Sometimes Vlog. It's a vlog that happens sometimes. Bonjour everyone, and welcome back to Disneyland Paris, sort of. Today we are at Walt Disney Studios Park. That's right, we are in a completely separate theme park. The second theme park of Disneyland Paris, or as I like to think of it, the DCA of Disneyland Paris, Walt Disney Studios Park. Now I have this problem when I do vlogs in Europe, which is that I get all kinds of new people watching who are fans of the theme parks in Europe that maybe aren't as familiar with California, but this explanation mostly goes to my friends back home in the United States that kind of know what Disneyland and DCA are because of me at least, and don't really understand Walt Disney Studios Park or Disneyland Paris. Well, you see, just through these gates over here, these massive Studio LA Paramount looking gates, over this way is the Disneyland Hotel and Disneyland Paris. And like California, where you have Disneyland and then you have DCA, Disney California Adventure, very close by, just a few steps away is this theme park, a second theme park modeled on Walt Disney Studios in Burbank. And really, this is basically, to wrap this all in a tiny little package before we even walk into it, this is basically a combination of MGM in Florida, remember that MGM theme park, which is now Disney Hollywood Studios, and Disney California Adventures in California. It's pretty much a mix of those two things. Here in Paris, they decided to build a second theme park because Disneyland Paris wasn't enough, apparently, to contain all of the goodness. And so, here you have it, Walt Disney Studios Park. Up here you can see they still have their ear-style water tower, which I heard they got rid of in Florida at MGM, or they are getting rid of over here. So you'll see a lot of throwbacks to things that are missing now from Florida and things that are very similar to DCA. Look at this. So when you enter this park, the first thing you'll notice is it looks awfully small. I had absolutely no idea this place existed. So if you're surprised right now, I don't blame you. Last time I was here, I only did one vlog here because it was freezing cold and raining and really windy, and I almost, like seriously, almost gave myself pneumonia. I dropped the phone 15 times. I had to start the vlog over and over and over again. I spent quite a long time outside in freezing cold temperatures in the rain. Isn't this awesome? This Fantasia fountain here. Only wait, they filled in the fountain with plants. That's a good budget saver. We should try doing that in California. Yes, Disney Studios Park. Anyway, what I was gonna say is I had never ever heard of this place before I was actually coming to Disneyland Paris. I knew about Euro Disneyland and all that stuff, and then that it was called Disneyland Paris, but I never knew growing up, or well, growing up, it wasn't here when I was growing up, but I never knew that they had built a second theme park at Disneyland Paris, ever. So when I came here, I was so surprised. You'll see it's so small, and that's because the entrance to this theme park is through this giant Studio One building. Now, I've been to the real Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, and this is very similar in style. It's sort of like, actually it's kind of a hybrid between what Disney Studios in Burbank looks like and maybe what Paramount looks like, or Warner Brothers, or like the typical Hollywood studio looking studio. But it has a lot of little tributes to the actual Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, such as, I'm trying to walk around this massive tour group here, such as all these little signs directing you towards attractions and things right here. And I just want to point this out before I forget about it. Like right here, they have signs like this that'll say like Dopey Drive, or point you towards the animation building inside the actual Walt Disney Studios in Burbank. So this whole place is kind of modeled on the idea that you're coming in to a working, cool Hollywood movie studio, specifically that you're going into Disney Studios. Like, you're here rubbing shoulders and elbows with Walt Disney, and you're gonna see how all the movie magic is created, and I guess that sort of makes sense. See, it's weird to me that they even had that in Florida, that they had an MGM Studios, much less that they would build a Walt Disney Studios in Paris, but maybe they figured that it makes more sense to stick it in Paris because people in Europe maybe aren't as familiar with the movie making process, in America especially, maybe that it's glamorous. I'm not sure. One thing I know is this place is certainly weird and unusual, and I think it's even more unusual that we have one in California, being DCA. But anyway, you'd probably like to see the inside, so I should probably shut up. I was just surprised that it was here. I did not know that it was here, and here we go. We're going into the theme park. As you can see, This giant door here is closed because it is extremely, extremely windy. And if you're gonna come along with me on this vlog today, we are going to encounter plenty of wind and wind noise. And there are gonna be times where you probably aren't gonna be able to hear what I'm saying. And I apologize, but that's just the way it is. All right, Studio One, just like at the real Walt Disney Studios, there's a giant soundstage called Studio One, and we can walk right inside here. So this is the entrance to the theme park. You have to enter through a building, through Studio One here at Walt Disney Studios Park. It is the weirdest thing ever. Stop and take a glimpse at this. It is a giant room the size of, oh, I don't know, probably your average Target store or something like that, with a food court on one side, and on the other side, a big shop on the bottom where you could buy souvenirs and stuff. And so you sort of enter this park and exit it through the gift shop and through the restaurant. What's interesting is they do have live music in here from time to time. So when you first enter the theme park, at times you have like this little jazz combo playing music as you enter, but there's all kinds of references back to old Hollywood here. Like here you have the Brown Derby, that's obviously pretty famous, and you have all kinds of little references to like the Egyptian Theater, Grauman's Egyptian Theater, and a bunch of other little Los Angeles landmarks. We don't have time to go and show you one by one. I like this one though, Club Swankadero. And then over here you have the Gunga Den. This one looks like a little bar called the Gunga Den. If you don't know what Gunga Din is, the old movie, Gunga Din, Gunga Din, Gunga, whatever it's called, then you're not gonna get that joke. Over here, Crossroads of the World reference, which would be very similar also to MGM in Hollywood. And inside of the shop, actually right up here, is Herbie the Love Bug. I don't know if you can see him in there. Yeah, there you go. Herbie the Love Bug is in there. So there's all kinds of little references to Hollywood. And by the way, this right here, the Leaky Tiki, is not only a reference to an old tiki, an actual tiki place. Ooh, look at this over here. Look at this little gas station you got going on here, huh? Sunset Gas over here, Sunset Gas, huh? Any of these look like familiar landmarks to you? But this Leaky Tiki right here would be basically the only tiki room you're gonna find at Disneyland Paris. There is no tiki room in Adventureland in Paris. There is no tiki pretty much anything except for this right here, which is just a little facade over this food court. And actually, we might as well poke our nose inside so I can show you that it's just a restaurant. See, so we would have entered down there. You come through this, and as you can see, it's just a restaurant over here. There's a little bit of seating upstairs in the back, but for the most part, just restaurant seating, and that's about it. This is the most unusual thing. This is the eighth Disney park I've visited in the world, and this just never ceases to surprise me. By the way, if you go back to that other vlog that I did here, I may repeat a lot of what I said in that other vlog, or show some of the exact same things, because I honestly don't remember it. I was dropping my phone so much and losing my mind so much that day, and it was so cold and so wet and so freezing that really the point of it was to not give up, and the point of it was not to like show the thing on the thing. I really don't understand this place. Okay, coming outside, what do we see? It's so amazing. It's so wonderful. It's Hollywood. Come on, everyone, it is Hollywood. I've come all the way to Paris, France. I've come halfway around the world to see Hollywood. Look at this in front of us. It's the Hollywood Tower of Terror. It's Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse, the partner statue that you would recognize from Disneyland. Look at that. Or from Walt Disney World at Magic Kingdom. Look at, there's Walt and Mickey here being best buddies in front of Tower of Terror. There's a dedication plaque by Michael Eisner right where that guy was sitting over here. Actually, let's go and take a read on that thing, shall we? Let's see here. To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Oh no, that's Disneyland. Well, we can't actually get close. We don't want to bother those people. So moving on. Look at this. It's just like the DCA Hollywood area, and much like MGM. So there's at MGM in Florida, there's no way I can help, by the way, but to compare this to Florida and California. There's just no way to help it, because that's all I see. All I see here is that you walk in through this giant Studio One building, and you walk directly into this very crazy short version of DCA's Hollywood Street, or of the Streets of America, or whatever it was called, that backlot section of MGM in Florida. It's very strange, very unusual, very, very weird. Take a look at it. So weird. Backlit a little bit by the afternoon sun, but what are you gonna do? It's windy, it's backlit. but filming is filming, seeing is seeing, and instead of skipping the vlog today, I thought, why not pop over to the other park for a second and take a look? Now obviously, here's something they've added since this park opened, the Hollywood Tower Hotel, or as we know it, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. This is an exact replica, as I was saying earlier, of the one in California. It's exactly the same. The drops are the same, the interior is the same. The only difference is that this ride is in French, although I hear that if you request them to, then the majority of the people like democratically vote for it, they will actually switch the elevator language to English for you. But you can see there's like little shops and little ice cream places and cafe things stuck into this facade. But for the most part, this is all very flat and a much smaller, dinkier version of what we have in California. There's a couple of strange little additions here. There was this weird truck here last time that I see is gone now, so they do have some stuff that they can move here, but here's some interesting stuff. Here's like a weird printout on one of these flat facades of like some posters that were like ripped off. Like instead of putting real ones and making it dirty, they have these weird pixelated pictures here. They've got an American trash can. Wow! I've never seen this before. Wow! So you can see why I don't really come in this park, right? You can already see everyone's going, why don't you come to the other park? Why don't you show the other park? Especially all the Europeans who really like this park have all been asking me, oh gosh, the wind is so crazy, have all been asking me, why aren't you going to the other park? It's because I know what a telephone booth in the United States, what it looks like. I know what that looks like. I've been to this place in real life. It's the same reason why I don't go to DCA in California, and I'm not a huge fan of MGM in Florida really, or excuse me, Disney Hollywood Studios in Florida, is I grew up in Southern California. I live right next to the real Hollywood, so going to see a flat version of Hollywood that looks like this from behind is really not as exciting for me. Now, of course, they do this to show people how you can build a set for a movie and it will actually be flat and fake, but on film it will look like this real thing. So there's a point to doing this, a teaching tool for children and for adults who are interested in the movie making process, to show how like sets work and how you can make a whole street out of a bunch of flat facades here. But to me, I already, not only do I know that because of real life movie studio tours like the Universal Hollywood tour, hold on a second, let me catch my breath. The Universal Studios tour in Hollywood, and going on real movie studio lots like, for example, Warner Brothers and Paramount and things like that. And Walt Disney Studios, the real one in Burbank. So to me, it's not as fascinating. It is fascinating, it is cool. I totally understand why people do it. I totally understand why people love it. But for me personally, I'm just putting this out there to answer a lot of people's questions. I do not find it as thrilling as other people do because I'm more familiar with actual Hollywood movie studios. Having said that though, it is pretty cool that you can come here in Paris, France, especially let's say you grew up in Paris or you grew up next door in Belgium or Germany or something like that, and you can take the studio tram tour over here and you can ride a studio tram tour, which is basically a replica of the one they had in Florida at MGM/Disney's Hollywood Studios, which is now being torn out to make room for Star Wars Land. They still have a replica of the Walt Disney Studios /MGM Studios tour here, backlot tour, that goes all through a backlot, describes the movie making process, shows you film sets. Well, here they're obviously mock film sets, and cars from the movies and different stuff like that, including right here, Cruella de Vil, Cruella de Vil. This would be Glenn Close's Cruella de Vil car from the 101 Dalmatians movies, maybe 101, maybe 102 Dalmatians movies. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Ooh, look it, driven by arch villainous Cruella de Vil in 102 Dalmatians, so not even 101. This is from 102 Dalmatians. I don't know if Glenn Close was in that. This customized Panther de Vil. Wow, that's clever. Panther de Vil reflects Cruella's lavish taste. This vehicle was inspired by the Bugatti Royale, the most expensive automobile ever made. I just learned something right now. I did not know that was the most expensive automobile ever made, and I now want to Wikipedia search it later. Look at that, that's pretty cool right there. So if you've never been in Hollywood and you didn't grow up in Southern California and you've never been to like the Peterson Automotive Museum or someplace like that, and you've never seen a car made in a movie, I think it's pretty cool that you can drive a few hours from Belgium or Germany or Italy or wherever and come and see a movie car that was actually used in a real life big budget Hollywood film, 102 Dalmatians, take the studio tour and learn about the movie making process. Huge fans of MGM Studios, the old school version of MGM Studios and Disney's Hollywood Studios, who loved that tram tour on the East Coast, might want to consider coming here
to Walt Disney Studios in Paris and taking that tram tour because they still have Catastrophe Canyon and all the other good things that the old studio tour had for you. Now, primarily, I am doing this vlog because people asked me to, more than I'm actually interested in. 9 times out of 10 when I do a vlog, I'm doing something I'm interested in. I get up in the morning and go, what can I vlog today? What can I show today? What kind of adventure or shenanigans can we get into today? But I'll show something that I'm interested in. When I'm having a boring day and I'm just kind of not feeling it or whatever, I have kind of a slow, dispassionate walk through an antique store or something like that with you guys, and we go out and find some fun locally at home. Or sometimes I go on trips and we take you these crazy adventures, but this one is pretty much by request because everybody else has been asking to see it. I haven't been in here much because I've been filming in the other park and I'm down now. I can measure my trip in hours instead of days, instead of weeks like when I started it, and I'm still not quite finished with all the random land things I want to accomplish and all the Instagrams and stuff. By the way, Instagram Live Fast Die Poor, there's plenty of pictures of this park that I took on Instagram. You can go check those out over here. But primarily though, what I want to show you is how small this park is. We just entered this courtyard here, the Fantasia fountain and all that. We entered through Studio One. We now walked over here to the tram tour, which means that we have just conquered a vast section of this theme park. A vast section from the entrance to where we are at the head of the Studio Tram Tour, from the entrance just past that Studio One building, and let's go slowly, swooping down the street to this, is we've pretty much seen a giant chunk of the park. So what I'd like to do on this vlog is see the entire park, and I want to show you how small it is. So given that we've started this pretty much at the 15-minute mark or so, because it would have only taken a minute to just jog through that, let's go and assume that we hadn't seen it and take a look around the entire rest of the park. Okay, now coming back up Hollywood Boulevard here, you get another look at the sets and the little American thing. Wow, an American parking meter! And see, I'm being a little facetious and a little sarcastic, and normally I wouldn't do that, but I'm not trying to be negative or dump on it at all. I'm just trying to point out how it wouldn't be super fascinating for me, although I gotta tell you, a little bit, kinda, this does make me feel good. Like, I feel a little bit like I'm at home. Like, if you just looked at me right here, in this, it's like a fun pic at home, only I haven't seen one of these trash cans on the street in the United States in like 100 years. Like, ever, maybe. Like, a long time. A long time. Look at this. No news today. No news is good news, they say. Over here, some more little seating areas and little outdoor dining areas. It's still winter, so a lot of this stuff is not being used the way that it would be being used in the summer. And so I'm still unfamiliar with giant chunks of it. Like, for example, the Disneyland Railroad just reopened in the other park. And I rode on it the other day and realized, wow, like there's a whole lot of Disneyland Paris that's actually closed during the winter time. So I have not even seen the entire thing. Look at this. Look at this fire hydrant, by the way. I kind of think just a little bit, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, that these fire hydrants look a little bit like Mickey, don't they? Don't they look a little bit like Mickey? Right inside Studio One, you can come and see kind of a hidden Mickey. I'm pretty sure that's incidental. I don't think it's on purpose, but it's a little bit of an accidental hidden Mickey right there. Look at that. Oh boy, we're gonna put out fires that aren't gonna happen here because this place is safe. Oh boy. Okay, look at there. You see the water tower over here. Here we have this show called Cinémagique. I still have not seen that one. I'm not big on going to the theme parks and seeing the shows and stuff like that, especially the kinds that are just on a screen. But I hear this one is very good. It's sort of a screen version of the Great Movie Ride here, where they talk about the history of cinema and different stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's in English or French. I still haven't seen it. Over here, you have Disney Junior live on stage. And this building right here, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the real Disney Studios in Burbank, but this studio here does look a lot like the modern animation building and like the ABC Studios building at Walt Disney Studios in Burbank. So that's very, very familiar to my eyeballs right here. When they built this place, obviously the execs at Disney were like, hey, we'll put a little piece of home here because that's what it's actually like. So that's kind of strange. So that might actually be pretty exciting for people here. Also, I want to mention, in case I don't have time to show them to you, that in the gift shops at the entrance, here's the Hollywood Tower Hotel here, you see it's exactly like the one in California. The only difference being the different trees at the bottom of it, because obviously the different climate in France. But when you walk in, the lobby, the elevators, everything is exactly the same. It's super bizarre, as the French would say. It's a French word. I don't know if you know that one. It's super to Anaheim, and then I've come back to France when I step outside. It's weird. Anyway, You can see over here, we have another, oh yeah, in case I was gonna say, in case I don't get a chance to tell you otherwise, there are actually pictures in the gift shops and stuff like that of Walt Disney, like at his studio and different stuff like that. So there's a lot of tributes to Walt here, which is really cool. Oh, look at this. Here you have a lot of tributes to all kinds of, oh look, Méliès, is that it? A popular Parisian stage musician, made over 500 films. Ooh. He was one of the early pioneers. I'm having trouble talking, I actually do have quite a cold. This is actually the entire, I would say, south side of the park. So you have Cinémagique over here, and then you have the Disney Junior Live on Stage, which is basically the same thing that they have at DCA. And then over here, you have the Armageddon Special Effects Show. Now, I wouldn't show that to you until we got down to it, except that I want to show you this. When I first saw this morning, or well, this morning, 15, 20 minutes ago, I was like, what the heck is that? I didn't remember having seen this before, and I was like, what the heck is that? I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to be looking at. And I realized that last time I was at Disneyland Paris, I didn't even walk over here. So the first time I've ever seen this in my life was today. Well, it turns out that this right here is a vehicular prop. Is that correct? Vehicular prop. It's the vehicle from the movie Armageddon, and it's right next to the Armageddon Special Effects Show. Now right here it says, built for battle. A 50-person special effects crew designed and built the Armadillo to battle the asteroid villain of Armageddon. Let's back up. The asteroid villain of Armageddon. Like, I know that the asteroid was the thing that was going to destroy Earth, and so they went to the asteroid to destroy the asteroid in the movie Armageddon. But I don't know that that would classify it as a villain that has a personality and whatnot. Like that, I thought that was a little weird and unusual. So anyway, there you go. That amused me this morning. And I'm sorry if I'm not my usual dainty, jaunty self, leaping and prancing. I have this cold, and I am cold, and it's quite windy. It's warm and sunny out right now. Looking on camera, I should have just said it's sunny. It's sunny looking out here now, and it looks very nice. As you can see, even the Europeans around me are all bundled up and freezing. It's freaking cold, and there's quite a chilly, cold wind blowing this morning or today, and it's really killing me. So here you have Armageddon Les Effects Special. So you have the Armageddon Special Effects Show. I still have not seen this, so you can't ask me what's in it because I don't know. I'm assuming it's kind of like Backdraft, or I don't know what's in there. And then over here in the very back here, we have Rock and Roller Coaster with Aerosmith and Motor Action Stunt Show, which is like Disney Hollywood Studios in Florida has that Lights Motor Action Stunt Show. Here you just have Motors Action. No lights, I guess, because it's all in the dark. Just kidding. And there you go. So you have a vehicular stunt show over there. You have Rock and Roller Coaster over here. So basically you have two of the big attractions at Disney's Hollywood Studios wedged back here. Also, you have the Disney Blockbuster Cafe, which is a very similar studio style cafe to that restaurant that's right next to Star Tours at MGM in Florida. So it's really weird. This park is difficult for me to visit, and especially difficult for me to vlog from. The reason I haven't vlogged much from it is because I haven't been in it much, for one, and for two, it just hurts my brain. Like, how do I describe this without constantly just saying, hey, this is like Florida, and this is like Florida, and this is like Florida? Because it pretty much is like a weird copy of Florida. So you know how Magic Kingdom is similar to Disneyland, but it's so different. Like, look at their version of Adventureland, look at their version of this. It's like, this is kind of like, look at their version of MGM and DCA, only a lot of stuff is just straight carbon copied off it. Like, for example, you got Rock and Roller Coaster over here, which is closed. By the way, isn't it weird that you have Rock and Roller Coaster right there, and you have an Armageddon Special Effects Show right there? So I'm pretty sure when Aerosmith walks into this part of the park, like if Steven Tyler walked down into this section of Walt Disney Studios Park, he would be like a god. Like, everyone here would be like, oh my gosh, is Aerosmith like super huge in France, or are we just dealing with a lot of 90s-ness going on here? I don't know. So anyway, these are all things that I need to do the next time I come to Paris, because I really don't have much time left this time. Look at this right here. Ooh, I don't know what that means, but it probably means something cool. Up. You know what I keep noticing is this stuff. I keep noticing all these references to Walt Disney's birthday. Walter Elias Disney and 1901 there and all that stuff. Walt Disney's birthday is referenced so much, especially on Main Street here at Disneyland Paris. On the other park, you will see all these references to 1901. That is the year Walt Disney was born. So Walt Disney would be 115 years old. Anyway, the only thing that's more exciting than the Armageddon special effects show, because we all know how popular Armageddon is. Was it really popular in France or something? Like, I don't understand how this could have lasted that long. But then again, at the same time, Universal Studios Hollywood had that Backdraft show forever, and I don't remember that being such a big movie, but that special effects show was awesome and deserved. And something that is super ultra weird and surreal for me, which is seeing this. There's a weird 1950s diner just wedged behind Twilight Zone Tower of Terror here, and the Armageddon special effects show. There's just this weird Café des Cascadeurs, this weird 1950s diner, which is apparently themed around dirt bikes. Very, very weird and strange. Actually, let's pop in here. This is gonna be super awkward and uncomfortable, and everyone in here is gonna be like, bonjour, and then we're gonna be like, hey, what's up? And then walk backwards out like we're weirded out. I'm just gonna back out like I'm weirded out. Oh, it's actually locked. They actually closed it. They are closed for the day. Let's see if we can get a little peek inside of there. Can you guys peek in there? I don't know. Can you see past the glare? Anyway, they've closed for the day, but I did want to poke in there. I guess, no, not gonna happen. That's another thing, it's short staffed because it's winter here. Unlike the parks in the United States, a lot of stuff closes in the winter. Oh, look at this. They have this motorcycle for you to take a picture in. Anyway, it's just surreal. I can't wrap my head around this park. It's very difficult for me because I'm trying to keep track of like learning about, like, not to sound like a whiner or anything, but I'm trying to keep track of learning about Disneyland Paris, which is already like, I've got Disneyland Paris down pretty much now. Like, I've seen a lot of things, but I haven't seen every little detail in there. And I've been learning that, and then I spent a lot of time exploring actual Paris this time on this trip. So I've been learning about France and the French language and French people and French customs and French attitudes, French customer service, French food, all this different stuff. And then when I walk around the corner and just see this weird, inexplicable little 50s diner wedged into this area of the park that's pretty much like a back alley between stuff, I don't know what do you do with that? Just how do you, I don't know how to explain how, like, I'm in a foreign country and then that's the thing that I see with my, I can't tell you how much it hurts my brain. Oh look, that over there is the little stunt show, Lights Motor Action stunt show area, and over here the studio tram is cruising by these bushes. Let's raise up the camera and see if we can take a peek. Well, look at that. So as you can see, very similar to Florida, very similar to studio tram tours in the United States, like Universal Studios or Warner Brothers. And by the way, if you're ever going to travel around the world and spend your money on a studio tour, as cool as I'm sure this one is, and as cool as the one was in Florida, I highly recommend that you actually go to Universal Studios Hollywood or Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank and take a tour of an actual working movie studios. As far as I know, Walt Disney Studios itself, you can see some screen used cars over there, and we can see a better look at them over here. As far as I know, the actual real life Walt Disney Studios does not have public tours, although I have been on a tour there before on a Sometimes vlog, and I've had private tours with people inviting me, but as far as I know, no public tours of the real Walt Disney Studios, so this is probably as close as you can get. Over here you have screen used cars from Con Air, from such hit classics as Con Air, Pearl Harbor, and more from 102 Dalmatians. And in the back over there, in the very, very back, you can see RC from Toy Story. Not a screen used car, but actually an old prop for taking fun pics with from this theme park that I guess was getting broken and smashed a lot, so they had to move him back there. So this is where the trams depart from and come back and unload at over here. And so we are back basically to where we started, at the center of the park. So we have now seen 2/3 of this theme park in 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, and we've been walking and talking. As you can see, not a lot of it is scenery. So this is a very strange, unusual theme park here. Out of the 8 Disney parks that I've been to, this is the one I can't wrap my mind around this one. It's so weird. Disneyland Paris is becoming, and I'm just talking about this right now because, would you hear that? That really sounded for a second like Roger Rabbit music right there. Anyway, speaking of Roger Rabbit, by the way, side note, a really good friend of mine showed me one night that, oh my gosh, Cruella de Vil, Devil. I'm just kidding, I already knew that. No, a friend of mine the other day pointed out that this park, Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris, once had live action characters, like characters in the costume, like Mickey and Minnie, you know, I mean, characters, not costumes, just characters. They had a Jessica Rabbit character here once that you could take a fun pic with. And if you Google it and look at the pictures, it is totally mind-blowingly weird. So anyway, I know this is a windy, strange vlog, but it's partially strange because of the park, but also because I can't wrap my head around it. Okay, so here's the back way to Toy Story Playland over here. This is the way to where we just were, past Tower of Terror over here. See, I'm having trouble because my brain thinks that I'm at DCA in Southern California. I am honestly having trouble just wrapping my head around this. You are watching me mentally stutter. You are watching me mentally just go, where am I? And it looks so much like the park in Florida too, that it's just bizarre. So look, we're back here at Studio One again, cruising down Hollywood Boulevard again. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so Disneyland Paris is rapidly becoming my favorite Disneyland in a way because of this, because I really appreciate all the attention to detail and honestly the fine craftsmanship. It's like all the Imagineers who helped Walt originally come up with Disneyland, and then you added these junior Imagineers who helped come up with all the different parks at Walt Disney World. It's like they all teamed up together, and in the 90s, before you know, all this stuff went down, they all got together in Paris and really wanted to do it right. They put in all these little details to the Main Street, to Fantasyland, and it's just so rich with history, and even the transitions between lands are so well thought out and they're so perfect, and it's just amazing. It's too bad it turned out to be the least popular Disney Kingdom park ever built at the time. Ooh, that's so windy. It's too bad that it was honestly kind of a failure when it opened up at first. Let's just crowd in here and hide from the wind. And the budget was so low that by the time they started building this park, Walt Disney Studios Park, and then afterwards, what else came afterwards? DCA and Disney Studios Park. I think DCA was actually a little bit first. Budgets were very close. They played it very close to the vest. They were very safe about it. They built everything, not cheaply. Cheaply is the wrong word because it's kind of a negative connotation, but they built everything as simply and as low budget as they could. And they did a lot of creative work. If you really think about it, there's a lot of people who like to be negative about that. They like to really hate on DCA, and a lot of people like to hate on this park, I'm told. But if you really think about it, the Imagineers and the people that created this place did a lot with a very small budget, relatively speaking, and did their best to wedge a lot of creativity and a lot of education into a park like this that teaches about animation and filmmaking, which I think is something that Walt Disney would very much approve of, because he was always in favor of not only educating people about, you know, anything, but especially about film and animation. And Walt Disney himself in all his specials used to show how the Tiki Room birds worked, and he used to show how the multi-plane camera worked and all that stuff. So there are some people who say that filming different things and talking about how rides and attractions work is like ruining the magic of Disney. Walt Disney himself used to show all these different things in the backstage process and how everything worked. By the way, look at this little statue of Genie here, and there's a character you don't see celebrated much, Brer Rabbit, especially considering that there is no Splash Mountain here. So this Brer Rabbit is a tribute to Song of the South, which leads me to rant over what's behind me, which is the Disney Animation Gallery. No, that's the store next door. What is this thing called? I forget. Anyway, here's another giant building with a hat. So here's another old school thing. If you were a fan of that giant hat at MGM that nobody liked at Disney Hollywood Studios that they took out, if you were a fan of that hat, you can still come to Paris and see a building with a giant hat on it here. Here people queue up, they go in here, they watch a film and a presentation about animation and how Disney does their animation and a little bit of history of animation, and then they go into this sort of big interactive room where it's kind of like those animation buildings at DCA where you can do all these little interactive games and stuff and learn about voiceover and learn about zoetropes and how animation works and all that stuff inside of there. The animation gallery itself, I don't know if that's just the store right there, but anyway, this animation building here, that is Paris's version of the animation building at DCA. Very cool, very educational, and I don't know what else to say about that. Over here, as you can see next to Studio One, it's just really cool. Let's go over there actually. Here you have this little Fantasia. Oh, back up, Justin. See, I'm still learning about this place, so you guys are wandering with me. I'm seeing this. Let's say I'm seeing this for the first time. I've only seen it a few times. Hold on, let me flip it around. Gosh, this wind. Here's a little sample of the wind. It's frustrating, let me tell you. I don't like that. I don't like waking up and being like, yeah, let's go do something and have an adventure. It's like, oh man, it's so windy, no one will be able to hear me. This happens quite a lot in California when we have crazy winds, is that I go to film a vlog or some kind of adventure, there's some cool thing that I'm so excited about filming, and I get there, the wind is blowing all harsh, and I'm like, dang, no one will be able to hear a word I'm saying. Boom, Toon Studio. So here we go. Here is the last third of the park, the last chunk of the park that we have left to see. Is actually called Toon Studio, and last time I was here, I didn't know this section had a name. So way over yonder on that way, if you're coming into the park, you have the Studio One thing, and way over that way is the section that really looks like Burbank with Rock and Roller Coaster and all that stuff. In the center here, you have Hollywood Boulevard, and Tower of Terror, and the animation building, and that whole facade of like a Hollywood street. And then over here, the last remaining chunk is called Toon Studio. Who knew it had a name? So you have that animation building over there, teach you about that. And you got this fun pick station. Over here, you have a Monsters, Inc. fun pick area. Ooh, check it out. You have these Scream monitors over here. You have the Child Detection Agency over here. Look at these guys, they're looking for it. We got a 2319. We got a 2319, which by the way, was my hotel room number at the Disneyland Hotel last time I was here, was 2319, and it's 2319 this time. They put me in the same room, so we got a 2319. We got a 2319. Wow, someone's screaming over there. Oh, over here you can scream into these and see how loud your scream is and how much energy you're providing to Monstropolis. And over here you can get a fun pick with Mike Wazowski and Boo's Door. Look at that. These people are gonna get a fun one. They are getting a fun one right there. That is actually pretty cool. Pretty cool, I'm kind of jealous. I wish I had a friend here with me to take my picture in front of it. Okay, moving on into Toon Studio. Now this, I think, is the part I was actually able to show last time on the vlog while my hand was freezing, so this will not be anything new if you did watch all my vlogs last time from Disneyland Paris. Over here we have Animagique, which is so confusing. So you have another thing over here, which was a show about animation, basically a animated version of Cinemagic. I'm not sure. I never actually saw it. It's now closed and under refurbishment and going to be something else. Over here, you have a version of Aladdin's Flying Carpets like you have at Magic Kingdom. In their Adventureland, they have this ride, which is basically Dumbo, but instead of being 1 row of seats, it's 2 rows of seats each, and instead of an elephant, it's a flying carpet from Aladdin. Oh, it's actually going up right now, and we can actually give you a little peek at what it looks like. Well, that's exciting. What perfect timing. You can hear Robin Williams' voice, which is actually very sad and touching, right here, as it takes a fly. As it takes a fly, what a weird thing. You can see I am struggling today. You can see I'm struggling today, but the show must go on. I don't have much time left in Paris, and in my brain, I'm thinking about all the stuff I have to film for Random Land. I'm thinking about all the stuff that I have yet to show on the vlog. I'm thinking about all the stuff that I have yet to take pictures of and yet to do, what's on my list before I depart for home just a few days from now. So I apologize if my concentration is a little the worse for wear. Oh, look at this. Over here you have Crush's Coaster, which is basically like Goofy Sky School, but indoors, and it spins all around. It's a cool roller coaster, all inside of stage 5 over here, but it always has such a long line. This one has a 65-minute wait time. Even Single Rider over there says 40 minutes, so I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that today, although some morning I do plan on coming in here and riding. And then behind me, Radiator Springs. Like I mentioned last time I was here, several people told me, go see their Cars Land, go see their Cars Land, they have a Cars Land there. Well, it turned out their Cars Land was basically just this attraction over here. It's actually a Cars ride more than a Cars Land, and I will give you a little view of what it looks like. Now, as many of you know, we have a brand new Luigi's car ride at DCA in our Cars Land that I have not seen or ridden yet. But here you can see these are little mini cars. Basically looks exactly like the new ones they built. So you have this whole area over here. Now, when I first walked through this park last time, like I said, it was freezing cold, it was pouring rain. I came with some friends to go to dinner at Chez Remy, which is the Ratatouille themed restaurant in the back over here. So when I first saw this out of the corner of my eye, I was like, oh my gosh, they have a Toontown here? But really their Toontown is just this little area right here, this little photo op. I don't know if I was actually able to get this closer. They have this cool little security booth over here, and then they'll have a cartoon character over here, and you could queue up and do a meet and greet with one of the Toons, which is honestly pretty exciting and pretty cool. Like, this is a pretty cool backdrop for a fun pic. Huh? Huh? Screenshot of that is gold. Gold! Anyway, look at this over here. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna keep going. So here's another place where they do the fun pics with the Toons. And then past this is Toy Story Playland and the Ratatouille area. And that is pretty much it. Now, we've seen these things before on the Sometimes vlog, but just for those who have never seen it, you have the Cars ride over here. And going over here, you have all this queue area to get on that car ride, which looks, of course, like Luigi's Casa della Tires over here with Luigi and Guido. Gosh, they're so cute. I love these guys. These guys are my favorite thing about Cars. Did you guys like the movie Cars? My kid loved the movie Cars when it came out, and I loved the first one. Cars 2, in my opinion, the first bad Pixar movie ever made. I did not enjoy Cars 2 very much. I was not a fan, honestly, and no. But the first Cars movie I really liked. I love Route 66. I liked the message of it, to slow down, you know, quality time over quantity, fastness. I don't know what I'm talking about. Bam! Over here, Toy Story Playland.
Je suis Buzz Leclerc, ranger de l'espace. C'est drôle.
Buzz Leclerc? Or Buzz Lightyear? What did he say? Buzz Lightyear's French. Buzz Lightyear is French. Somebody switch him back to Buzz. We need to switch back to English mode. Switch back to English mode. Buzz. Whoop! There's small children everywhere in front of us. Ah! Things are happening. Look at this Buzz Lightyear right here. Oh!
I am Buzz Lightyear.
Yay!
Space Ranger. If you take my picture, be sure to get my good side.
Okay.
Actually, they're all good sides.
It is very weird to see this mammoth, mighty statue of Buzz Lightyear backlit by the sun here in front of Toy Story Playland. But I have to say, this is one of the most beautiful, most well-themed Disney anythings I have ever seen. And of course, the sun is right in our faces and discombobulating the camera and making it very difficult to see what is in store. But here, because he's backlit, we got a very good view of Buzz Lightyear's backside. Copyright Disney right there. Appropriate. So look at this. Look at this. You can see Tinker Toys and Christmas lights and oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This right here, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, this is offensive. No? Okay, that's fine. Toy Story Playland. This is tough because it's all super backlit, but it'll give you some idea of how cute it is. Instead of Bugs Land at DCA, you have Toy Story Playland, and here you have a giant footprint. I think that would be Andy's footprint right there, and over here you have the Toy Soldiers parachute drop. Check this ride out, it's pretty crazy. The Toy Soldiers, you know, those army soldiers from Toy Story have their own ride here, and it's a crazy parachute drop in front of Tower of Terror. So there are two rides right there where you go up and down and scare the bejesus out of me. I'm not a big, huge fan of heights. And so that ride right there would make me very nervous to go on. Somebody said, oh, it's like jumping jellyfish at home. Not really. It's really not like jumping jellyfish. It's a lot higher and a lot faster, although you can go back in the vlog and watch jumping jellyfish. Okay, really quickly, I have to move quickly, we don't have much time. A Lincoln Log entrance to the Slinky Dog Zig-Zag Spin, which I just did with the DLRP fans, guys. They're sort of the fresh-baked Disney of Disneyland Paris. They wander around and make videos about all kinds of stuff. And so I just rode this with my buddy Philip from Belgium. We just rode around on the Slinky Dog there. Geez, I want to show you all these rides, but they're all shut down and not operating. You can see them on my Snapchat, Live Fast I Pour, and also on Instagram, Live Fast I Pour. Look at all these dominoes. This is what I'm talking about, the theming in here. Okay, this actually gets me stoked. This part of the park, whew, helps me calm down my discombobulated mind. There goes Slinky. Because it's completely different than anything in any other Disney park. And so it actually does put my mind at ease just to see something totally different. The first few times I went to Magic Kingdom, the first 2 or 3 times actually, okay, here goes the parachute drop. First couple times I went to Magic Kingdom in Florida, I really had a problem wrapping my head around that park. I did not like it. Now, the reason I didn't like it isn't because Magic Kingdom isn't fantastic. It's because it was so familiar to Disneyland and yet so different. I was having trouble distinguishing between the two in my brain. So all my mental effort was spent on trying to separate the two in my mind, but also to make them the same. It was a whole weird experience.
And I think that's what my head tries to do at this park still, is trying to make sense out of it and turn it into DCA or whatever. See that right there, ladies and gentlemen? It's terrifying. Anyway, this is one of the most beautiful, well-themed areas, like I was saying, because you have all these little pieces. Now, were you ever a child? I'm guessing that most of you, at one point or another, were children. And I'm guessing you probably had dominoes and Legos and wooden train tracks and Lincoln Logs and Tinker Toys, and all of this area is built out of giant versions of that. Here's the rubber ball for jacks. There's some jacks over here, and one of those old balsa wood planes that you'd get for $1, the Fun Flyer. There's an Army Man Jeep over there, and so this is literally made out of our childhoods, especially if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. This looks like Andy's Rooms toys. So these are things that, if you grew up in the United States especially, but I'm sure are worldwide. I'm pretty sure that, like, you know, all these different things are all Tinker Toys. They had to have Tinker. Did you guys have Tinker Toys in Europe? I don't know. But all of this stuff right here is pretty much our childhood come theme park. That's so crazy. So here you have RC Racer over here, and RC being that remote control car. The one I was talking about earlier, I was told, used to be right here, but they have changed him as a photo op for this fun pick station over there that this little girl is inside of. They have this fun pick dealie over here instead, because I guess people were beating up on and like kind of breaking that other car. They were climbing all over it. And they didn't have the staff necessary to stop people from doing that, so they stuck RC on the studio tour. But I'm glad to see that whatever the company was, those old toy boxes, and then at the bottom you'd have all those bits and pieces. You'd have like the blocks and the Lincoln Logs and the baseball. There's some dog chew toys over there for some reason. And well, I know because it's Slinky Dog, but you know what I mean. You'd have all these little bits and bobs, bits and pieces left over. Hey, Slinky! From all your toys and games at the bottom of the toy box, and that's a lot like what this is like. Look at that! Here's this little guard shack for this guy watching Slinky Dog, made out of those colorful old blocks that he used to play with. This is honestly a lot more fun than it looks like. Slinky Dog over here. It's a really cool attraction. Okay, we literally only have a couple of minutes, so I have to keep moving on. Here's the RC car thing here. He basically just goes up and down. People load up in a car shaped like RC, and they just swoop this little half of a loop-de-loop thing. It's not a very long ride. All these are very simple, very safe for small children, and they don't last very long. So like for a small child, an adult going on this would probably be disappointed, because watch. Let's watch the entire ride. We go up a little bit. Uh-oh. I'm sure the G-forces are strong on this ride, don't get me wrong. Oh, there we go. Okay, there he is. All right, here we go. Coming around for round 2. Oh boy. Well, that looks pretty crazy. Now picture being a small child on here. Doing this? Whoa. I'm not a small child, and that worries me. Whoa! Doing that for a small child would be rather intense and insane. You can see it stops going to the top very soon. It starts to slow down. And that's good, because see, for an adult you go, oh, that was really short and didn't last very long. But for a child, that's good, because speaking as someone with a small child, they get kind of scared and nervous. Like, okay. Whew, it's done. And that builds up the bravery. And then one of the coolest things of all, Rex. There's Rex right there. So you have Giant Woody. No, not Giant Woody. We do not have a Giant Woody. Giant Buzz leads you into Toy Story Playland, and then you go down all the way to Rex, where people take fun pics, sticking their heads in his mouth. Pretty cool. You have Rex's name on the blocks down here, and those giant dominoes, and lots of stuff to climb on and play around with. At home, there's not a lot of stuff to climb around on. And that's because, for those of you in Europe that may not understand this, in the United States, we have weirder things. Like in Paris, I tripped and hurt my leg the other day. That would never happen really in Los Angeles, because so many people sue, and that people are so sue crazy in the US that they've kind of like, honestly, legalized all the fun. I don't know how you would say it. They've squeezed all the fun out of public areas, so you can't have little things sticking up. You don't have anything to trip on in the US. And what I love about Disneyland Paris is it seems very, very different. There's way less fences. There's a lot more you can climb on and jump through and jump over. Actually, I noticed that Florida, the Florida parks are better about that too than California. California in particular is a lot worse about that. You gotta legislate all the fun out of everything and make every pathway perfectly smooth and don't have any obstacles. Anyway, leaving Toy Story Playland now. See, well, hopefully we'll be able to come back and do vlogs that are way more specific, way more detailed, less rambling, and I'm less confused in
and that are funnier and more upbeat, and I'm sorry guys, I'm doing the best I can here. Wow. Hopefully we'll be able to come back and do more vlogs at Disneyland Paris and Toy Story Playland and stuff like that, but I'm trying to cover the entire park, so bam! Here we go, exiting Toy Story Playland. These barrel of monkeys are saying goodbye as we pass through their barrel. I'm told, by the way, that the lid of the barrel is usually a toy store. So you can see the barrel of monkeys lid over here, and it says Toy Store E. So there's a toy store in there. Anyway, going into the barrel itself, we pass now into the very, very last piece of the Toon Studio area of Walt Disney Studios Park here in Paris, well, in France, the Ratatouille area. This is like basically a Ratatouille subland over here. Subland, a little smaller land over here. And you have Bistro Chez Remy, which is the Ratatouille themed restaurant, which is very, very cool. All these giant things in there, giant bottle caps and giant things, and it looks just like the little restaurant that Remy sets up for the rats at the end of Ratatouille inside of there. It's a very nice restaurant, and I actually sat in here with a whole group of guys last time who actually did eat Ratatouille right next to me. I'm trying to see if we can peek in one of these windows if there isn't someone seated at one of these windows. Okay, let's go. Let's peek in a window here. Ooh, ooh la la. Les fancy, no? Les fancy, no? Les fancy, no? It's kind of weird when you stick a phone up to a window because of the glare, but you can see, well, that's a bad direction. You can see it's a very fancy, nice Ratatouille restaurant. Look up pictures of it from last time, or you can just Google it online and check that out. Normally, I'm not so lazy as to be like, just Google it and look it up, but we are running out of time. 52 minutes of wandering around this park. Then here you have the Ratatouille ride. L'Adventure Totalement Tokay de Remy. So, probably the adventure of the totally cool rat named Remy, and there's a girl with a beret behind me about to bump into me. That's another thing you're not seeing on the vlog that's very, very different about Europe in general, I would say, but very much France, is everybody bumps right into you and comes right up close to you. And it is one thing that I am very much looking forward to getting back to the United States, where we're all strangers and we're way less friendly to each other, some people would say, but we respect the whole personal bubble and the personal space thing. Because, man, every single day people bump into you. There'll be a whole wide, huge space, and someone will come walking and just kind of like right that, right up next to you. It's crazy. I'm sure if you're from Europe and you're from one of these places and you're used to that, that's a totally fine and friendly way to be. I'm not complaining about the people. I'm not saying the people are mean or anything. But definitely if you're used to Southern California and our wide open spaces in the United States where nobody would ever do that, and they walk basically like in this zone of me, and there's a lot of space. That's what I'm talking about. It's just weird. For me, while I'm doing the vlogs especially, I'm like, Anyway, look at that. This is super weird and surreal because 45 minutes away by train, a leisurely train ride away, maybe 30 minutes by taxi, is the city of Paris itself, where you could walk around real Paris. So you'd think them sticking this in here wouldn't be very popular, but the French people love it. Not just the other tourists to here, but the French people like go gaga for this. Almost every single French person I've met from out here is like, oh, you're at Disney? Have you gone on the Ratatouille ride yet? They love it. Ratatouille ride, by the way. Hello. It's basically, that was weird. It's basically a hockey puck you ride on. It's no track. It's sort of some kind of magnet or some kind of thing. You're sitting in this little hockey puck shaped like a mouse, and you go from screen to screen to screen. It's a 3D ride, so you're seeing these 3D screens, and they're kind of bordered and surrounded by 3D real-life props. So it's kind of like the Transformers ride in Universal. People keep asking me if it's similar. It is similar, but the Transformers ride in Universal goes up and down and sideways and shakes, and this just sort of stays flat on the floor as if you are a mouse moving around. It does kind of like bump up and down, so you feel like the mouse is like jumping or running or something like that. But for the most part, it's like Star Tours, but seated on a hockey puck, and you go from room to room instead of being in one vehicle. Hard to describe, but here we go. Back out to Buzz Lightyear's rump. We have basically spent 56 minutes. I did not think I would film another vlog this length while I was still in Paris. Hopefully that's the last one this length for a while. The reason is I wanted to get as much Walt Disney Studios Park in as I could. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. I know it was tough. This is probably one of the weirdest vlogs I've ever done, just given the weather, the coldness, the wind. I've been trying, by the way, also to keep the camera out of the wind. So there's a lot of things you don't see sometimes on these vlogs. Trying to keep the camera out of the wind, trying to keep the camera from bumping into all these people who were walking ridiculously, by my standards, ridiculously close to me and all that kind of stuff. stuff. And I don't want to be intrusive or be in anyone's way, trying not to talk in people's ears. That's a lot harder when the people come up to you. So at home, I'm like, oh yeah, I never want to bother anyone or disturb anybody else while I'm doing the vlogs, whether I'm at a theme park or wherever I am. I always want to keep to my own little corner. But it's weird because in France, people will come into your little, you know what I mean? Like if you're just going to a corner like this, people will come stand right next to you, smell the cigarette like in your face. Like, whoa, what's going on? I'm not used to that. I'm an American. I'm used to wide open. I'm used to Texas and space and lassos and whatnot and Canada Space Center. So anyway, I wanted to get as much Walt Disney Studios Park in as I could, and we literally just walked pretty much down every path in the place. We literally walked the entire park and saw basically the entire thing. For my money, the Ratatouille area and the Toy Story Playland area are two of the best themed Disney areas ever. Like, I really wish that our Bugs Land could be replaced with the Toy Story Playland, just to have one, because it's so cool. It's kind of the Bugs Land of DCA, or of, see how confusing I'm getting? Walt Disney Studios Park. We have Bugs Land at DCA, they have this. This is so cool here. This Toy Story Playland is like my favorite thing. That Ratatouille area, so well themed, so well done. The Cars ride over here is very small, but for being such a small attraction, is very, very well themed. So everything that's here is very well done. See, there's another example of I just dodged a human that was about to walk right into, just very weird. Everything that's here is very well done, but it's just a very strange, to me, hodgepodge of stuff. It's like, you got this Aladdin ride here, but you have a lot of Aladdin stuff at Adventureland on the other side, but then you have all this Pixar stuff, but it's not all in one land, it's kind of spread across half the park. Then you have that animation. It's just a weird mix for me. But having said that, even when the Disneyland Paris park itself, the Magic Kingdom style park, is almost completely empty of people. Even when it's almost completely empty and there's no line for anything, since I've been here, there's been huge lines for Crush's Coaster and for Ratatouille every single day. So this park is extremely popular with the Europeans. So I might not understand or appreciate it the way that I should, because I'm from Southern California, because I'm used to DCA and now Disney Hollywood Studios in Florida, and because I have these other parks, I'm not quite seeing it with the eyes that other people would. And so you probably aren't either if you're from the States like me. We're just looking at this as a curiosity. It's definitely worth coming to, definitely worth the ticket for the day, but I haven't spent enough fun time in it yet, like time on my own, like exploring it and really having fun. And because I'm not here with friends, so I haven't like made cool memories with friends in this park, I don't look at it the same way or appreciate it the same way. But apparently for the Disneyland Paris crowd, for the crowd that comes here all the time from England and France, Belgium, Germany, and all close by areas, Italy, and all such like and whatnot, they really love this park. So it is very cool, it is very good. So I don't want you to walk away thinking I'm disparaging it in any way. I'm just having such a hard time mentally coping with an alternative bizarro DCA here in France, but it's California. But it's France, it's Califlorida, Francia, and with my head, and then I've also been to the real Disney Studios, and it kind of looks like that, and then we're back over here. So anyway, in an hour, we've explored the entire thing. I don't think I'm coming back into this park while I'm in France. I'm going home very soon. LiveFastIPorn.Spreadshirt.com, LiveFast, iPorn, Instagram, and Snapchat. I have to go now. Justin Scott on Twitter. Tell me what you think of this park. Let's discuss it in the comments below. Love you all. Bye-bye.